Okay, we are looking at question 4 of your 2019 geography paper for N-levels. Okay, so first question 4a, you're asked to describe the name, you're asked to name and describe the characteristics of layers B and C. Okay, so for 4 marks, 1 mark for each box. Okay, name 2 layers and describe the characteristics for both layers. So all of you were able to tell me that B and C is actually the mantle and the core. Okay, so all of you managed to get 2 marks at least for telling me that it's the mantle and the core. Okay, but the description is where you start to falter. All right, a lot of you are not using proper terms. Okay, you say things like, for example, oh, the mantle is the inside layer. What do you mean by inside layer? All these are inside layer because they are internal structure. Okay, or some of you say that it is thick. Well, all are thick, but how thick is it? Okay, so as you can see from here, you want to say thick, maybe talk about how thick, that will be clearer. Okay, now of course a lot of you are thinking, wow, I don't really know what is the rocks involved, I don't memorize the exact number. Well, if you can, this would be best, but if you didn't, no big deal, there's other things to talk about. Okay, so like for example, you can tell me the state. All right, so crust, I need to see things like solid. Okay, then mantle, the proper term will be semi-molten. That means it is like, not really completely liquid, not completely solid. Okay, it's like, solid but flows and behave like liquid because of all the pressure. So you can start by telling me the state. Okay, is it solid or semi-molten? All right, now when it comes to heat, well, if you're not very sure, if it comes to heat, well, if you're not very sure of the exact degrees, well, you can always say that this is the hottest for the core. Okay, then maybe for mantle, you can say that it has the highest volume. All right, so as you can see, there's so much thing to talk about, even though if you don't remember or you don't know the exact rocks involved. Okay, so don't panic and use proper terms. Okay, use proper terms like innermost or second layer, that kind of stuff. Alright, some of you write things like, at the center, or not from the center. So very, very vague terms. Okay, now second question, B part 1, you're asked to describe the location of the 4 mountains shown in figure 7. Okay, for 4 marks. Okay, now when you describe, remember, always go with the general. Where's the majority? Give me the specific location and then give me the anomaly. Okay, so generally, where are most of them? Most of you are correct to say that generally 4 mountains are found at plate boundaries. Okay, now some of you said convergent plate boundaries. My question to you is, where is the evidence of convergent plate boundaries? Okay, now some of you want to say coast. Well, this major big one is not at the coast, so a bit difficult to argue. Okay, I know in previous questions we discussed, we talk about coast. Well, that was because they displayed this inland one as a very, very small 4 mountain. Okay, whereas the majority of those on that map was coastal. Okay, as you can see from over here, this takes up at least half in terms of area. Okay, so half of what is shaded here, or maybe even 1/3. So a bit difficult to say that they're at the coast. All right, now anomaly, well, is there any 4 mountains that is not found at plate boundary? You have some here and you have some here. Okay, now the problem with many of you is that you forgot to give me specific anomaly using continent names. You are using words like left of the map, right of the map, center of the map. Okay, you cannot be using such terms when you see a map. Okay, you need to use cardinal direction like north, south, east, west. You are geographers, you need to use cardinal directions. Okay, correct things to do. Also, please use continent names. It's expected that you know since Sec 1. Okay, so for example, okay, so where can it be found? Well, it's found at the west coast of North America and South America. Okay, and it can also be found at New Zealand. Okay, it can also be found at the plate boundary between these 2 plates. Okay, the anomaly, maybe we can talk about this one in the middle of Europe. okay, and this one in Russia. Okay, now major plate names you are expected to know. Okay, I think I've given you the list. Well, if you forget, you can always poke your way through using the continent names. Okay, so and the ocean name. So this major big one in the Pacific Ocean is your Pacific plate. Okay, let me use a different color. Okay, so you can always talk about Pacific plate. Okay, you can also talk about North America, North American plate. You can also talk about South American plate minimally, isn't it? Okay, and then of course this one you're expected to know is NASCAR plate. Okay, now even if you forget NASCAR plate, at least you can talk about this example. Okay, then of course this one in the African continent is the African plate. Okay, then this huge one that covers Europe and Asia would be Eurasian plate. Okay, and then here the major one that covers Australia will be Australian plate. And then this one goes back to the Pacific plate. Okay, and then of course right over here is India, so you can talk about Indian plate. Okay, you see, so even though I don't remember every single thing, is this good enough? Okay, of course the one they didn't block out, they didn't mark out Philippines plate, but these are the key ones that you should know. Okay, so I listed down in your syllabus document. I also put it in your notes. These are the major ones that you need to know. Okay, put the one with the hashtag. Alright, so as you can see, it's quite easy to remember because most of it is actually named after where the continent names and things like that. Okay, now of course this is the Arabian plate. I can pretend I don't know because this is not the major one I need to know. Okay, but I'll just move on. Alright, so generally 4 mountains and 5 plate boundaries. Specifically, you need to give me at least 2 examples. Specifically, they are found at the boundaries between they're found at the plate boundaries between North America and Pacific plate. Okay, on the west coast of North America. Now if you didn't write the west coast of North America, it's fine. Okay, I'm just being very refined answer. Okay, and then of course you can talk about NASCAR and South American plate. Okay, or you can talk about the Himalayas. Okay, between Indian plate and Eurasian plate. Okay, you can talk about how there's the mountains in New Zealand between Australian plate and Pacific plate. Okay, so there's so many to talk about. You just need to pick 2. Okay, so any 2 above, you get 1 mark. Okay, but now it's a 4 mark, so I need to talk about it even more. Okay, now some of you may be thinking, where do I get Himalayas? Where do I get Alps? Well, these are major mountains you needed to know. Okay, so which is why your notes give you examples. Okay, about Mid-Atlantic Ridge, about Africa, about the Great African Rift Valley, about Marianas Trench, about the Himalayas. Okay, so these are some things that you should already know, but if you forget to name it, it's fine, no big deal. Okay, so any 2 above 2 marks, up to 2 marks. So need 4 sets to get 2 marks. Okay, then the last one will go to the anomaly. However, please don't write anomaly, no such thing. Okay, right, however, simple words. So where the anomaly, the one in red. Okay, 4 mountains are also found away from plate boundaries, or some of you might say that near the center of the plate. Okay, such as between Spain and France, as well as in the north east of Russia. Okay, 1 mark. Actually, you don't need to write both. One of the examples is good enough to get 1 mark for anomaly. Okay, So please use proper terms. Okay, now some people may be asking me, can I just write, for example, here, can I just write that they are found at west coast of North America and west coast of South America? Can I do that? Not as good as those who can give me the plate boundaries. Why? Because your general trend is found at plate boundaries. So you need to give evidences of plate boundaries to answer the question well. Okay, so please take note of this. Next question, B part 2, explain how four mountains are formed. You may illustrate your answer in one or more and diagram. That means you can choose not to draw. Okay, so 3 marks. Where do I get it? Remember I tell you all, when you draw, explain formation of plate tectonic features, always start with where it happened, which plate boundary, okay, and what's the in-between steps, where plus the force, and then of course over time, and then you describe the landform. Okay, so where it happened, what kind of plate boundary. Four mountains is like, paper being crushed up, just that it is a much bigger scale. So it is about pushing things together. It's convergent. At convergent. Okay, now some of you are oceanic and continental, or continental, either one we can accept, because as long as there's a continental plate involved, there will be four mountains. Okay, so at convergent continental plate boundary, okay, the plates move towards each other. Okay, exerting compressional forces on the rock layers. Okay, so what's the in-between step? In the plates, okay, or in the crust. So what's the in-between step? Okay, so in-between step, as a result. So ideas about, rock layers buckle and fold, okay, and start to get uplifted. So ideas of uplifting, forming multiple peaks. Okay, and then the last one is over time and describe. So over time, because four mountains don't take like immediate, it's not like push and then immediately got huge mountains. They take millions and millions of years to form. Okay, the layers further, forming a range of highlands known as four mountains. Okay, that's all. 3 steps. All right, you can see that in your notes actually. Okay, now your notes may not use the exact same phrasing, but they use the exact same keywords like buckle and fold, uplift, okay, range of highlands, things like that. Okay, compressional force, all this. All right, so make sure you know these key things and you can phrase it accordingly. Okay, next one, explain how a tsunami is caused. Okay, I think this one so far so good. Most of you did it well, but I must see these major components. Number one, okay, so tsunami is large, is basically a huge waves. Okay, that can huge waves form. They can go inland, or they can rush for a few kilometers, known as tsunami. Okay, this last part is not very well defined for most of you. Okay, some of you going to say, the tsunami breaks, the wave breaks and then rush inland and then destroy things. The scope of the question is about how tsunami is caused. That means how it's formed. Okay, so you don't need to go on to tell me how tsunami leads to certain effect. You just need to define what tsunami is in the last step. Okay, so the first step, I need to see some ideas of underwater earthquake. Okay, because that is how most tsunamis are formed. Okay, underwater earthquake, I need to see ideas of the earthquake transferring energy to the sea, or to the water in the sea, in the ocean or in the sea. Okay, I'll just put ocean. So this part is not very well expressed. Most of you didn't talk about transferring energy. You just say underwater earthquake, that's it. Okay, next, what will happen to the energy? The energy will what? Will form big waves. Okay, be transferred in the water. Okay, will be carried across the ocean as huge waves. Okay, basically in the form of waves. Okay, then what's the third step? Well, the whole idea of, as you get closer to the coast, it gets taller and bigger. Okay, gets closer to the coast, so it starts to bottom of waves. Okay, interact, have friction. Okay, then the whole idea, it starts to slow down. Okay, and then as you reach the end, as you reach the coast, okay, so just these 4 major steps. Well, you can where do you get this? As I said before, you can get from your notes. Okay, so earthquake, and then there is tsunami at the back. Okay, so so you talk about circular motion, you detailed this. No, it's perfectly fine. Okay, so basically 1, 2, 3, 4, these are the key ideas that must be there. Okay, of course, if you're not so detailed, as I said before, these key things must be there. Okay, now part two is not very well done. I think a lot of you forgot, you all are thrown off by the map. Okay, you're supposed to describe the spread and the height. Okay, so you must tell me the spread means, like the pattern, the distribution, and the height means how tall do you go. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Okay, all right, so it was a how many marks question? Lost track. Okay, 4 mark question. Okay, so 4 mark question. Let me zoom out a little. Okay, so 4 mark question. Again, you give me your general, you give me your specific, you give me your anomaly. Okay, so generally most of you are able to say that, when it's closer to the epicenter, the wave height is the highest. Okay, and then when you are further away from the epicenter, wave height is the lowest. Okay, now you need to quote evidence. All right, so wave height is the highest at about, this is like dark purple. Okay, or you can quote the place name also, Islas Juan Islas Juan Fernandez. Okay, wave height is the highest at about, this is probably about 100 to 160 meters RCM. Okay, further away from epicenter, wave height is at the lowest. Okay, at about 10. So this is about maybe 5 cm. Okay, so that is 1 mark, the general idea, general trend. Okay, general distribution. Well, specifically, you talk about, where exactly it is. Okay, specifically, or for example, okay, at Easter Island, which is about, you can use the scale to estimate. Okay, this is about 3,000 km away from Islas Juan Fernandez. The wave height is about this is about maybe 70. Which when it gets further away from, at about 15 hours, further away, okay, so about 15 hours at Hawaii. Okay, which is about, you can estimate about 3,000, 6,000, about 8,000. Okay, 8,000 to 9,000. Okay, so just put 8,000. Okay, the wave height is about wave height drops to about 40 cm. Okay, or you can even talk about the furthest away one. Okay, right. Now, what else can we talk about? Is it the same distance will always be taller? Well, as you can see, here Wellington. Okay, sorry. You can see that Guam. Okay, let me draw a line here. It'll be easier to see. You can see that Guam, okay, versus Tokyo. Tokyo is further away, but than Guam, okay, but yet the wave height is taller than here. Okay, and you can see this anomalous one, that at the don't say left hand side, at the west of the thing. Okay, so you can tell me more about it. Okay, so we can give 2 marks to anomaly because there's so much anomaly to talk about. Okay, now if you don't talk about Hawaii and Easter Island, you can always talk about San Francisco and things like that. Okay, we also see a slight anomaly over here. Wave height is taller here, wave height is taller here. Okay, so there's a lot of anomalies to talk about. Okay, however, the spread is not uniform. Okay, what do you mean by that? At the eastern side, epicenter, the wave height drops more rapidly with increasing distance from the epicenter than at the northeast. Okay, so this one alone is 1 mark already. So for example, okay, Wellington is closer to the epicenter, okay, at about 3,000, 6,000, 9,000. Okay. So, or you want to talk about Guam and Tokyo also can. Okay. So go closer to the epicenter at about, now if you don't want to measure, you can always use the time here they give you. Okay. About 20 hours after the earthquake. Okay. Then closer epicenter than Tokyo. Okay, by about 20, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 20, 21, 22, by 2 hours now. Okay. Yeah, the wave height. Okay, should be Guam, sorry. Okay, so Guam is about close to 0, but Tokyo is about 20. Okay. Alright. Okay, if you want to talk about this example, you can talk about how the northeast. Sorry, that's not east. This is not northeast. This is northwest. Sorry. Okay. Okay, so all right. So you can talk about the northwest. How there is much taller wave height along the coast of South America and Central America. Okay. So these are examples that you can talk about. So okay, so talk about here. All right, at Russia, there's this strip where at Tokyo. Okay, so these are things that you can talk about. All right. Now you might be thinking, why like that? Well, basically sometimes the waves can get amplified when it's much shallower, or maybe because there's an island over here that's not recorded, so it blocks most of the wave energy. Okay, but they didn't ask you to explain, so no big deal. All right, so don't be scared. When you see such unfamiliar things, look at the patterns, look at generally what's the pattern like, and look out for anomalies, and then you'll be fine. Okay, and when they give you specific, you realize that they give you specific place name. Why? To help you to name the places. Okay, so don't panic about this kind of questions. These are actually questions meant to help you. Okay, last one, it's not sensible to live in volcanic area. I think most of you are fine. You're able to tell me that you can agree because of the benefits. Okay, and you can disagree because of the problems of the risk. Okay, but what is lacking in some of your answers is the clarity. Okay, first things first, let's talk about the risk. A lot of you say got pollution now, got destruction now. You just say that there is rocks flying around, ash flying around. Hello, every day is it? Okay, specify for me, it is during an eruption. Okay, and then the next one, you all did not, some of you didn't explain why is it a risk. You just say got rock flying around, but if there's no one living there, what's the big deal? Okay, or if the rocks bless me, you know, what's the big deal? Okay, you need to explain how it leads to injuries and deaths. Okay, so if you don't link it there, you have not explained, you cannot get L2. Okay, now if you move on to the benefits, okay, same thing, most of you just talk about, you know, oh, there's tourism, there's precious stones, there's fertile soil. Link it back to the volcano. Okay, so is it the volcanic ash? Is it because of the volcanic area? Is it because of the deposits from the volcano eruption? Okay, and then same thing, a lot of you say that, oh, can grow more crops. Why is it the benefit? Okay, grow more crops might be a problem. Too much crops, I cannot feed people, I cannot finish it, it's a wastage. Okay, link it back to better standard of living. Okay, so once you do that, you would have shown both sides well. All right, that's all for question 4.